guys, so this is Anna and I am a pantser. So if you have watched some of my videos, you might already know about this. But yes, I'm a pantser, meaning I write from the seat of my pants, meaning I don't do any planning beforehand, I just start writing. So I found this article that says how to pants a novel, tips for writing as a pantser. Now I thought, as someone who I feel like I've pretty much mastered the craft of pantsing for me personally. So I thought either I would find new tips or I would agree with these tips. Because these are not these. This is a writing advice article. So if I claim that I have mostly mastered the art of pantsing, then maybe I would most likely agree with what they are saying here. Of course, you have to say everyone is different. So who are they writing these for? Are they writing these for pantsers or people who don't know if they are pantsers? We're going to see. So, how to pants a novel. Tips for writing as a pantser. It's the title here. Let's see. I can't tell when this was written. Maybe it says so at the bottom. We'll get there when we get there. Are you a plotter or a pantser? Right here. If you're a new writer, it won't be long until someone asks you this question. Well, I actually don't see this question, unless it's another writer asking the question. It's not particularly that the writer would ask a particular writer the question, but more like a writer would ask on social media to a bunch of people. And then you're like, maybe I need to think about that. But I haven't had anyone ask me this question. Like, I don't actually meet writers. So I can't say I met a writer for the first time and they asked me this question. Or they didn't ask me this question. Do you get asked this question as a writer? Like if you're out and about and you're a writer and then they ask you? I don't think people who aren't writers don't even know plotter and pantser. I mean, I didn't know plotter and pantser for a long time, even after getting into writing. So, while the word plotter might be easy to figure out, you might wonder, what is a pantser? I did actually wonder that. I don't know why my voice is doing this weird high-pitched thing. Pantsing and plotting are two different methods of writing a novel. While both are valid, figuring out which one you are can help you approach your writing project in the most efficient way. So what does it mean to pants a novel, and how does a writer learn to do it? In this post, we'll share some strategies for those taking the pantser route for the first time. Okay, so they are saying it very clearly right here. They're saying in this post, we'll share some strategies for those taking the pantser route for... Oops, shoot. This is really suspicious. Look how that is so close to if you wanted to select this for the first time. And this ad is so close. And they have a white background around it so that you can't see where it begins. That is very sneaky. Okay, strategies for those taking the pantser route for the first time. So I would suspect that these are tips for people taking the pantser route for the first time. So these are going to be for the newbies. These are going to be for people who don't really know what the heck pantsing is, but they think they might be this person. They think they might want to try it, but they don't know how to go about it. It just feels kind of daunting for them or something like that. And the tips are going to be to help alleviate that feeling of dauntingness and make it easier for them to become a pantser who can get work done. Okay, that's what we're expecting. A lot of articles like to say this is what they're going to do. Like they're going to say, I'm going to give a 12-step guide. And then they don't give steps. They just give 12 tips. You know, So we'll see if this one lives up to its name. I mean, it doesn't, tips for writing as a pantser. It doesn't say, though, in the title, tips for writing as pantser for the first time. Maybe they couldn't do that. Maybe they should have said tips for writing as newbie pantsers or something like that. I don't know. So we'll begin. What is a pantser? Now they're getting to the definition, making that clear in the beginning, which is good. The term pantsing refers to the phrase fly by the seat of your pants. Pantsing is simply writing a novel by making it up as you go without an outline. This kind of writer is the exact opposite of a plotter who may use an outline or a beat sheet to plan their novel before they start writing. That is true. That is exactly what I do. To better understand plotting and pantsing, imagine the writing journey as a cross-country road trip. Okay. A plotter is someone who maps out the entire journey from start to finish before they ever start the car. I guess I'm kind of I'm a pantser when it comes to writing, but I'm a plotter when it comes to trips. I need to know exactly where we're going to be and when and where. Otherwise, it just makes me feel anxious not knowing where we're going. Unless my partner says something like, I'm going to take you to this place and we're going to just figure out what to do with lunch. And I'm like, okay, I'll leave it up to him because so far it's been great. So if I can trust that, But if I can't, then I'd rather know exactly where I'm going, when, what time we're doing what, and that sort of thing. Not down to the minute or anything, at least to the hour. At least to the hour, maybe 2 hours, depends on what we're doing. Anyway, so a plotter has the map. The plotter knows, how far they will drive every day, where they will stop to eat, and where they will stop to refill the gas tank. The pantser simply gets in the car and starts driving, knowing they will figure it out as they go. Even if they take a few wrong turns, they know they'll eventually reach the destination. That's exactly what I wouldn't do if I'm actually traveling, which is kind of interesting, I guess. I'd rather pants my writing, but I don't want to pants my traveling. Or anyway, so some writers, here they are. They're going to mention the hybrid, which is good. Not many articles mention this hybrid. Some writers consider themselves a pantser or a mix of a plotter and a pantser. To continue our road trip example, a pantser might pin down a few key stops along the way, but will figure out the rest as they go. This road trip is such a good analogy. Who is this person writing this article? Writing Mastery Academy. I don't know who the author is, but maybe we'll see that later. Sometimes they have it at the bottom. Where are we? Just because a pantser doesn't outline before they write their first draft doesn't mean they don't know where their story is going. While it may sound disorganized, some of the most famous best-selling authors use the pantser approach, including Meg Cabot, Neil Gaiman, and Stephen King, to name a few. The first time I heard that Stephen King is a pantser, I felt kind of validated, because sometimes pantsers were told that, you should outline, or, but this is the way that we write. This is the way that works for us. But no, you need an outline, or you need to use a, one of those beat sheet things, those things that they use for screenwriting and stuff like that. But no, it doesn't work like that for us. And then come to find out, some of the most famous writers out there are pantsers. That's pretty validating. Stephen King, he writes those novels with those storylines by the seat of his pants. Well, the benefits of writing as a pantser. Okay, well, getting into the benefits. One of the biggest benefits of pantsing is that the writing process feels much less rigid. You've crafted an outline. You might feel compelled to stick to it, thinking you have your story mapped out and you can't change directions along the way. Rigidity can destroy the creative process, prevent you from following through new ideas could lead to a more compelling story. Okay. When pantsing a novel, there's more room for inspiration to roam. Writing without a roadmap allows you to turn down hidden paths and flip over rocks to see what is underneath. It's stopping into a new story that you'd never noticed before. When pantsing, you never know what you might uncover that you wouldn't have if you had stuck to an outline. That is true. So they're basically talking about this roadmap, using the roadmap analogy still, and they're saying that you could be walking along this road or driving down this road, and then you see a store. Oh wait, what is that new store over there? I'm gonna go check it out. And oh, look what I found in this fancy little new store that I never noticed before. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening, because when I'm pantsing, well, anyway, that was their analogy. Let's move on, and then maybe I should respond at the end. We'll see. Even more so, pantsers allow themselves to be surprised by what they cover as they let the story unfold on the page before them. This creates an organic flow that allows the story to tell itself. It is flexible and surprising, and the reader would benefit from the organic nature of the writing. Interesting. Okay. Allow themselves to be surprised by what they cover as they let the story unfold on the page before them. I think, aren't they talking about how, characters start doing things on their own? And it's I'm just, running after them, writing down whatever they're leaving behind, and trying to keep up. I don't know if that creates an organic flow that allows the story to tell itself. Maybe that's what that is. It's like when you're writing, when you're pantsing, it's like there's suddenly this moment. In the beginning, it's a little hard, but it's suddenly this moment. Maybe it's around the middle part of the beginning part. Suddenly this moment where it just sort of clicks for me, and then it just flows. And everything is working out. Everything is just completely working out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is so great. Oh, wow. Look at this. Look at how far I'm getting. Oh my gosh. Look at what is happening. All this cool stuff is happening. And maybe that's what they're talking about here. That pantsers allow themselves to be surprised by what they cover as they let the story unfold on the page before them. Maybe that's kind of what they're talking about. That what happens after it clicks and then it just flows out. Maybe that's what that's about. Now that we've compared plotters and pantsers, let's look at some easy steps for writing without an outline. Okay, now they're going to get into the steps. I wish people didn't use the word steps, but maybe these are steps. Because look, pantser is writing by the seat of the pants, right? There aren't steps, or are there? The writing process for pantsers: start with an idea. I mean, this is the same with everyone. This is the same with all writers. Whether you're a plotter or pantser, you start with an idea. Start with an idea. They have a link here. And then think about where you want to take that idea. You might not know where you're going with the idea, and in order to figure out that What? Wait, hold on. English crazy. Hold on, wait. You might not know where you're going with the idea, and in order to figure that, you must simply sit down and write every day. Okay. There's several things wrong with this sentence. First, grammatics are wrong. Come on, you're a writing website. You need to be careful of these things. Oh my gosh. I find it funny when these writing websites starting to speak like Bugs Bunny, or what is it? Not Bugs Bunny. Elmer Fudd. Whiting websites. These whiting websites have typos, and they're whiting websites. Whiting websites. In order to figure that out, you must simply sit down and write every day. I would No, I mean, the writing everyday thing is a kind of a controversial tip in that it works with some people and some people's schedules, but it doesn't work for other people and other people's schedules. Or your mental capacity in your brain that you need. Some people might feel like I don't know what, I have some mental issues that I need to deal with and I cannot write today. But I feel forced that I have to write every day because all these famous people are saying to write every day. All these writing advice articles are saying to write every day, and I'm not writing every day, so that is bad. So now I feel bad about myself. There could be people who start thinking like that. So it's not good to say write every day. Write it often. Write as often as you can would be a better phrase to use here. These writing advice articles, they like to say write every day see, as if everyone can do that. As if. I know they mean to practice, okay? I know that what they mean is that you need to practice. But you don't have to say write every day. You just say in practice. And then what that entails is something like, oh, you write as often as you can, considering your time schedule and your mental abilities, and stuff like that. So they need to really say it like that, not just put it down into these 3 words, write every day. That's an issue. So moving on. Let's move on. The more consistently you write, the more the idea will reveal itself and develop. You're not swinging it. You're winging it and allowing inspiration to find you along the way simply by showing up to the blank page with your idea. That's a bad idea. I'm going to get into that. Hold on. The idea can come from anywhere. A newspaper article, a story on the evening news, or a conversation you overhear at the airport. As if people go to the airport so often, do they? I don't. Maybe people in the States do more often than I do because I live in Japan. I don't need to go to the airport so often. I know people in the States, some people, they need to use the airport to travel to their work even, like the local airport and stuff like that. I don't know. Okay, so it says you're winging it and allowing inspiration to find you along the way simply by showing up to the blank page with your idea. That is a very, very bad idea. Okay, I know it might, okay. I think it's a very bad idea. I think it's a very bad idea because it can give you a block in your writing. Why did that turn gray suddenly? It can give you a block in your writing. You see a blank page and you feel anxious or something. I need to write something, but I can't think of anything. This blank page is staring me down. So, saying that it needs to be okay. I don't think you should have a blank page. When you're pantsing, you should not have a blank page. Now, what I'm going to tell you is a little bit different. You could call it a note outline method for pantsers, okay? So, okay, listen carefully. This is what I do, and this is what I found works for me as a pantser. Now, what you want to do is that, let's say you come to a point in your writing, and you're writing, and then suddenly the flow just kind of stops because you're getting tired. You're just getting tired, but you still have some ideas of how the story is going to move forward. So you're not just going to just close the document and say, okay, that's problem for tomorrow me. It's not problem for tomorrow you, okay? You're going to not exit the document. You're going to have, think of just some easy phrases. Very, 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 very easy phrases. It can be stupid phrases too. Like, let's see. Let's give an example, okay? Let's just give an example from... Something's beeping somewhere. It's probably the rice is done. Anyway, what I was going to say is that an example would be like if I would take, my current story that I'm rewriting. Where did that come out from? Which is about a blue bipedal feline struggling survival in world and trying to get revenge on our enemies. And what I would do is that I have a scene where her name is Pinty, and Pinty has arrived at the first human village, and she is going to get some help. And that's where I end it, because I'm tired and I don't want to move on anymore today. But I don't want to forget the ideas that I do have. Like, I have a few ideas, just a few. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the blank page spot, and I'm going to write things like a sort of stream of events, I would say. So, like Pinty. So so the story has ended at the moment with Pinty followed the sorcerer into the village. Period. That's where it ends. And so the continuation of that would be a simple line like, Pinty doesn't trust sorcerer. Pinty sorcerer have conversation. Conversation is good. They go through crowd. So many people, lots of people. Show what people look like, what they wear. And then the next line is, so many people, they get separated. Pinty is lost. She tries to find her way out. She can't. Meets mercenaries. Mercenaries want something from her. Mercenaries or thieves or whatever. And the next line, confrontation with Pinty and thieves, some fighting, punching, kicking. And if at those points that I'm creating these lines that I have inspiration for some dialogue, I just put the dialogue in there. Pinty Colin, I don't trust you, or whatever. And then sorcerer Colin, that's okay. You can follow me or not, but I can take you to an inn where you'll be safe. Something like that. So it's just very simple. It's like an outline, but not really. And then I write all that out, and then once my brain feels satisfied, I close document and leave it for next time writing. And so when the next time comes up, I don't have a blank page. I can just start off where I was thinking, oh yes, that's right, I was thinking that I'm going to have them have this conversation. But the thing is, okay, I'm still a pantser. This is not an outline. I had this idea, but they don't have to have a conversation. It's very, very crowded and noisy. They don't have to have a conversation, just a simple little conversation, just very short. So I delete all that other conversation that I had, and then just make a simple little conversation, just a short one. And then she gets separated in the crowd. That stays. And then she gets stuck in an alley. She doesn't know how to get out. So then she meets the thief. And now the thief was going to be more of a punching, kicking kind of thing. But I make it a little bit more conversational, some mystery. There's something that the thief says that Pinty is like, wait a moment. You know about that? And the thief is like, everybody knows about that. You don't know about that? So now I'm doing the pantsing thing, right? I suddenly get an idea. Oh wait, I can do this in this scene. I can have the thief bring it out. Like, everybody knows this. It's a famous thing. And Pinty doesn't know it because she's never been outside. So, and that's how it goes. So then the pantsingness comes back in again, and whatever I had written the previous day can be overwritten. It can be overwritten completely too. But as long as I have something there and not a blank page, it feels better. When you get back to the story, it feels a little bit better when you get back. So that is what I do, and you can try it. See if it works for you. It's just a little way to keep up the momentum when you get back onto your story, and you're not left with a blank page. So I really do not think showing up to a blank page is a good idea. Okay, so that was a little bit of a interjection. I won't call what I gave to you a tip. It's not a tip. It's just something that I realize that I do, which helps me. And some people do it, but I don't know. We don't really talk about those things as pantsers. We don't really talk about methods because we don't really have methods. We don't think we have methods. So supposedly this article is going to give us methods. I'm drinking water, by the way, because I do a lot of talking. Okay, we're moving on. When you have an idea, explore that idea with curiosity. What might happen next? I need to take a breath. Don't overthink it too much. This will impede the flow of creativity. Just go with the flow. Start writing your thoughts about the idea and let the story take shape. Write quickly and don't edit your thoughts. All thoughts and ideas are worth considering. At this stage, the idea doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be discovered and captured on the page. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what I do. I don't go back and edit unless it's something that will hinder the flow. As in, I've wrote something completely outrageous and weird, and if I don't change that, I can't even continue on the flow. There are things like that come up. I can't give you an exact example. Although I am a true lover of examples, writing advice articles don't give many examples for some reason. But I can't come up with any examples. Okay, maybe like an example would be like if I said, Pinty doesn't know the language of the outside. And I'm like, wait. No, she does. She does because she was taught in school and everything. What a weird thing to say, Pantser Brain. So I delete that because it's just inconsistent to the world or whatever, or it's just a silly little thing that I don't need to add in. Like maybe the Pinty and Sorcerer are talking, and then a little boy comes up and asks them if they want to buy strawberries. And I'm like, do I really need to have this in here? No. It's a nice little thing. But no, I don't need to have this in here. Why did I suddenly add this in? It's a tangent, so I delete it and then I move on. So I do a little bit of editing, but not like a lot of editing. If I immediately know it's something that I really don't want in the story, like what was I thinking kind of things. What was I thinking? Like sometimes a Pantser Brain, there's just weird things. You're gonna find moments of being like, what was I? What am I thinking? What am I thinking? This is such so weird. Why am I bringing this up here? So you should just get rid of it if you want to. If you don't want to get rid of it and just leave it, that's fine. But yeah, I do a little bit of editing, just a little bit. But usually for the first draft, I just write, and there's so many plot holes, but no, I just write. I'm going to deal with them in editing. So, okay. Know your characters, okay? Pantsers don't always start with an idea. They might start with a character and build a story around a character. Some characters are so compelling that it's impossible for a pantser not to sit down trying to figure out what their story is. In an interview at the end of the audiobook version of The Four Winds, author Kristen Hanna explained, "I like to put my characters in the darkest possible moment of their lives and ask them to not only survive but also thrive somehow. If you are inspired by a compelling character, ask yourself what their conflict will be and then build your story, letting the details of the story unfold as you write." I don't know why Kristen Hanna is here. Is she a pantser? I don't know. I don't know. They're making it sound like she is, but I don't know. Yeah, I can say some stories don't always start with like a plot type of idea. I write character-driven stories. I usually think of like a character in some type of situation, and then I feel compelled to write their story. So there was this one character. This was very interesting for me because usually I'm thinking about a character around one of my worlds that I created. But there was this one character that popped up. Okay, he was wearing a suit, and it was dark and rainy. He was bowing his head, supposedly at the lowest point of his life. He's wearing this silky top hat. He was once somebody. And he doesn't even have an umbrella. He's out in the rain. He looks so just absolutely miserable. And the setting is some kind of steampunk type of world. And he was once somebody, but he's now at the lowest of lows. And I was like, wait, who is this guy? Who is this guy? What is his story? What is his name? Where did he come from? How did he get to this point? And so I immediately had this idea that he was this charismatic, just has lots of friends, and he's very successful in something, and just he made the worst mistake of his life, and now he's at this point, and it's no one else's fault but his. And that is why he's at the lowest of his lows. And I'm like, this is interesting. This character suddenly popped out of nowhere. And this character doesn't belong in any of my worlds. No, I don't think he does. So I ended up writing this story that takes place in a completely different world. So this character's name is Jack Oswald. And I thought, okay, Jack, tell me, where does your story begin? And so I just wrote out his name, and then I found out that he has a curse that makes him hear people's first thoughts that come to their mind, their immediate thoughts, and then he's having headaches from this, and he is at the hospital trying to get treatment, and no one believes him. So then I'm like, wait, where does this curse come from, Jack? Why are we where are we going? What is your profession? What do you do? He's an art gallery owner. I'm like, okay, you're an art gallery owner. Okay, well, what are you? He is actually kind of suspicious because he does really suspicious things behind closed doors, and he has weird friends too, and then he also attracts weird people, and then he suddenly has an old childhood friend that he betrayed and who was now out after him for revenge. So okay, that is interesting. And there are dragons in this world. Oh really, there are. Okay. So then I'm just following the story. I'm just writing whatever is coming at me. It's very weird when that happens, because it's my story. It's like I'm the author, but it's like, how is this happening? Sometimes I think, like, how is this happening? It's like he's a real person. He's telling me that this is my story. This is where I come from. This is where I live. These are the people. And I'm like, hold on, Jack, wait. And then it just keeps going. It's so weird how that happens sometimes. Very weird. So, I would say, but I quite like that story. How it turned out and everything, all the twists and turns. He is an unreliable character in that. He lies to himself. He lies to his friends. All over the place. He lies to everyone else to hide this truth, which he's been trying to sort of avoid his entire life. But now it's come back to haunt him in ways that he probably never imagined. It was wild. So, if you want to experience something like that, if a character says, hey, look at me, write my story, you're going to want to do that. You're really going to want to do that. You're going to have a great time. They're going to give you a time. Okay, next it says, be open to new inspiration. See, these are not steps. These are tips. Okay, I wish people would stop using the word steps and use tips, because, I think they're using steps because they think that people are looking for steps, when they're searching online, but people look for tips too. So I think saying tips is just completely fine. Well, that's my idea. That's what I think that they're doing. Be open to new inspiration. Following a new idea is an intrinsic part of the pantser's creative process. Plotters are struck by a sudden brand new idea. They may fear it will lead their novel off course. Writer who is discovering the story. By the way, pantsers are also called sometimes discovery writers. Discovering the story will be more open to following the idea to see where it leads. The pantser may soon discover that the novel they thought they were writing is not the novel they end up writing at all. Following inspiration often leads you to an even more compelling story when you allow yourself to follow where the plot threads or characters want to lead you. You may end up with a great story you wouldn't have otherwise written. That's exactly what I've just talked about. Now I want to mention something here because they're making it sound like that pantsers have an idea in the beginning, like the beginning idea, where the story is going to start and stuff like that. I usually, and then, okay, yeah, just go with the flow, let the story take shape, all that stuff. They make it sound like that you're just writing without any goal in mind. But I have talked to some writers. Some writers agree with me in that they have a vague idea of what's going to happen in the end. Not all writers, but some writers, okay? So I usually have an idea of what I want to have happen at the very end. This is at the very, very end, what is going to happen to the character. I usually have that idea. And so the way I write is like I write towards the end. Anything can happen in the middle. It just needs to get to the end. It just needs to somehow get there. And I do manipulate it a little bit so that it gets towards there to the end, so the character doesn't go off on a weird tangent, okay? That he doesn't just run off. I don't let Jack run off, okay? Like, I have this goal for him that he needs to get to this point at the end. And sometimes, okay, so for Jack's case, I didn't know what exactly the end was going to be until around the middle part. I'm like, okay, I think, actually, when I found out what his truth was, that he was hiding and trying to lie to himself about, when I found out what his truth was, I thought, okay, so we are going to go towards this truth. That's what's going to happen at the end. So that's when I had that idea. But sometimes I have the idea at the very, very beginning. Like, okay, I have an idea, vague idea, this character, vague idea kind of what's going to happen, the beginning, middle, and the end. But the end is definitely, I want this definitely to happen at the end. So like Pinty's story, I know, I mean, this is a rewrite, so it's a little bit different. But even when I was first writing it, I had an idea, okay, I want this twist to happen at the end. This is definitely going to happen. And for it to happen, certain things need to happen throughout the story, so I'm going to make sure they happen. But other than that, it can kind of do whatever it wants to do. So it's not like I'm just writing and I'm just like running off into the distance, riding off into the sunset. No, I'm not. So I'm not saying that my advice is to figure out what your ending is. No, that's not my advice. But just because you have thought of an ending doesn't suddenly make you a plotter. Okay, you're still pantsing towards the ending. So if it happens to be that way, like you happen to be like me, don't feel like, oh no, I am a plotter then if I have an ending in mind. No, that's not the case. Okay, so we're moving on. Create a simple organizational system to track your story. Okay. While pantsers don't follow a rigid outline as they write, it's still a good idea to keep track of important events, plot points, or character arcs in some sort of simple format. Just because you're a pantser doesn't mean you can't keep notes. Right, okay. Even if you are a firm pantser, you may find it helpful to keep some sort of system that allows you to take a quick glance back at your work. This allows you to track your progress and make the revision process much easier. Okay. There are a few ways this can be done. Create a second document in which you can jot down the highlights of the day's writing session to help you keep track of where you are in the story. You can do that if you want to. I am not going to ever do that, because if I have a good writing session, I don't want to go back and analyze that writing session, because I know I'm going to start seeing the plot holes and all the mistakes, and I'm going to feel like I need to go back, edit and fix it. But I can't go back and edit and fix it, because I just need to get the story out, because I'm a pantser and I need to just get it out. I can't stop and like do something like this. Maybe it helps some people. You can try it, but it doesn't really help me. Jot down ideas, notes, and changes on index cards you can easily move around and review as you write. You might even record ideas for future writing sessions on index cards to keep in mind as you write. I don't use index cards. I don't really like index cards, to be honest. It reminds me too much of when I was studying in school, and I was writing the word on the front and the definition on the back. I don't really like index cards. But I do usually have a Word document titled Notes. And this usually contains a character name, a sort of brief description if I have one at the time, usually their age, and sometimes their relationship with the main character, sometimes where they live if I have that. Yeah, and also sometimes I have a list of places that the character visits. If they're traveling, I have the names of the places and like a little bit about the place. Just a little bit. Usually it's whatever I had already written in the story. I don't go beyond that unless I feel like I can, but I usually just leave it as like if I have a village filled with weird sorcerers who only communicate using signs, then that's what I'm going to write in the notes. I'm going to have village name, and I'm going to say villager sorcerers only use signs to communicate, period, and that's it. I also might have, like, if I come up with a name for a magic system or something like that, then I might write a little bit about that. Sometimes I might even go back to my notes. Instead of having a writing session, I'll have a notes session and sort of like organize my notes a little bit and make it easy for me to read later and stuff like that. Usually when I write my notes, okay, it's how I organize my notes. Usually I write my notes in that if I were writing a blog. So like if I'm explaining it to someone, like character, so everything is organized. If I'm just writing it for myself, it's going to be all over the place. And I'm not going to thank myself later if it's all over the place. So I try to write as if I'm writing it for somebody, like a blog or something like that. So I'll have headlines, headings, big headings, small headings, underline things in bold, things in italics, make it like an article type of situation so that I can go back easily. I'm not speaking anymore. Okay. So I wouldn't use index cards. I mean, you can if you want to. I mean, it's not for me, but I use just a Word document. It's just another Word document. And it's easier to put it in a Word document because then if I'm looking for a particular word, like I remember this one character named Sarah, but I don't exactly remember what I said her last name was. And I knew I came up with it when I was writing my notes. So then I go to the Word doc and I look up Sarah and I'm like, oh, her name was Sarah something. Okay, and so now Miss something, how do you do? Whatever I'm writing the story. Okay, next one says, make a list of key points, subplots, and character arcs in your novel to help keep you on the path you want to follow. I wouldn't suggest people do this when they're writing the first draft. I would suggest that you do this when you're editing, when you're doing your first editing. Because as a pantser, if you do stop to do these things, you're going to have an outline. You're going to be starting to plan stuff. I would say, okay, so you could make little notes, like if you're writing about a character in your notes, you could say something that he does in the plot. Like, I don't know, his magic explodes and he is suddenly wanted by police, or something like that. You put that right where the character name is written, or something like that. Because if you start writing out key points and subplots and character arcs, it sounds like you're trying to write an outline. So that is kind of a strange thing to suggest. But if you're, I usually know everything. I'm usually able to remember quite a bit of the story without having to do any of that kind of stuff. Any of this kind of key point subplot list kind of stuff. Because I'm on this flow, I'm just writing these characters, I'm on this flow writing their story, and so it's not like I'm going to forget. It's like when you read a book, you're not taking notes of the key points that happen in the book as you're reading it, right? You just remember it. So I usually just remember it. But if you're someone that has trouble with like remembering things in memory and stuff like that, or you just like the idea of having like lists and stuff, you can do that. It just doesn't work for me, and I would suggest against it, because if you're a pantser, you just want to keep with your flow. You don't want to go back over your writing if you can help it, especially the first draft. You can do it during your editing. I do a lot of that sort of thing. Key points and stuff like that, character arcs. Key points and subplots, not so much, but character arcs, yes. If I feel like it will affect the overall plot, sometimes I do those sort of things, but not often, actually. Keep a bulleted point list. Shouldn't it be bullet pointed list? Or bulleted list of what is happening in your story as you write it. You can, I would suggest against it, the same thing, because you don't want to disrupt your flow as a pantser. The flow is once you have it, you need to grab it, and you need to keep at it. You can't be doing these last two things. It might hinder you. I'm not saying that it definitely will hinder you, but it might hinder you. So you might not want to do that. Right, so I wish writing advice articles will stop telling you to do things and be more like it's a suggestion. Keep a bullet pointed list, make a list, jot down ideas. I'm like, it's like, this is what you got to do, otherwise you're not doing a pantsering properly. So that is definitely what you got to do. And I'm like, that's not really the case. You need to write it as suggestions, because, you might find out that these things hinder you, and then you're like, well, then maybe I'm not a pantser, now try plotting, and then maybe plotting doesn't work for you. Then I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? So keep your end goal in mind. As you pants your novel, keep in mind your end goal. What transformation do you want your hero to make by the end of the story? How do you want the reader to feel when they turn the last page? What is the purpose of your story? Keep your end goal in mind as you pants your story. Keeping your end goal in mind as you pants your story will help you stay on track, even as you are figuring it all out as you go. Yeah, so they just talked about just what I just talked about the ending, about having an ending in mind. I don't really think about how do you want the reader to feel when they turn to the last page. That is something I think about during editing. And what is the purpose of your story? That is also something I think about during editing, maybe like the third or fourth or fifth editing. But what transformation do you want your hero to make by the end? That is something that I do keep in mind somewhat, very loosely, throughout writing the story. Are you ready to try writing as a pantser? Now you know what it means to pants a novel, and you have a better idea of how the pantsing method can benefit your novel. I don't know if there's actually a method. Start with an idea or a character. Create a simple organizational system that helps you stay organized as you follow rabbit trails along the writing journey. Remember to always keep your end goal in mind. Using these tips, you'll easily master the art of writing by the seat of your pants. You know, giving advice on how to pants, I think, is really hard because it's like you're just writing. Although there are things that you can do along the way that will help you to keep just writing. As I was saying, with not leaving yourself at a blank page. That method I actually developed during NaNoWriMo, because as a pantser, NaNoWriMo is very difficult to keep up sometimes, and so if I have a blank page, I might not be able to continue writing, because as a pantser, it's like the blank page is like, oh my gosh. And different from plotters who have all this stuff outlined that they have come upon a blank page and all they need to do is check their notes. But for pantsers, you still do need something. You can overwrite it as much as you want, but you still do need a little something. And I found out that if I do that method, it really helps me to continue writing the next day, if I am writing every day like I do for NaNoWriMo. So, and that helps the flow and everything. That helps the writing flow, to keep the momentum of the writing flow. So this article, no idea who wrote it. Absolutely no idea. No idea when either. Sometimes it says in this, in the URL of the article, sometimes it says it there, but no idea. I'm going to have to put in not applicable thing for the date for this one. No author name. So is this new stuff? Is this old stuff? We don't really know. Overall, there's some things I agree with, and there's some things I don't agree with. Is that because this is a bad article, or is that because I'm not this person, whoever wrote this? I'm not this type of pantser. Maybe there are other people who are this type of pantser, but I'm not this type of pantser. Is that it? Or is this somehow confused about being a pantser and being a plotter, despite having defined it earlier? I'm not entirely sure. So anyway, that's it for this article. It's probably quite a long video because I did go into tangents of my own experiences and stuff like that. As for what I said about what works for me, I don't know if it worked for you, I mean, you really just need to try out things and see if it will work. Basically, as a pantser, you're trying to keep momentum, right? So you're trying to keep momentum. So if you come upon something that is like, oh my gosh, I can't remember the character's name, I can't remember the name of the road, and if you have a few notes on that on the side that you can refer to, oh yes, the town in the north is called Northern Town or whatever, and the characters have just gone there, so that's the name I need to use. If you can have some little notes like that, that would be great. Just keeping track of just things. Oh, that was a yawn. Anyway, this article was interesting. It's very interesting indeed. I didn't feel like they misrepresented pantsing. They did have the sort of similar type of confusions that I've seen other articles on pantsing do. Like they're saying, Pantsers don't have an outline, and yet you need some kind of an outline while you're writing. And I'm like, I don't do that. Anyway, that's that. Let me know what you think about this article. Let me know in the comments down below, as always. And let me know if you have an article that you want me to look at on writing, on pantsing, on fantasy tropes and cliches, on world building. What else am I good at? Or any general writing advice article, anything. I now have a form which you can go to. You can send a link to the form, and I can react to it. So that is something that could happen if you go to that form. I'm going to link the form in the description so that you can get to it easily. And hope to see some interesting articles from you. And that's it. Hope you have a lovely day. And if you were considering being a pantser, maybe you've been inspired or not. I don't know. But anyway, that's it for this video. I'm not good at ending videos. What did I say? Have a lovely day. Like this video, subscribe, and that's it. You will hear me. I will not see you. You will not see me, but you will hear me in the next video. So, yeah, that's it. Yep. Okay. The fox is out.